Okay, so today's task is doing the upper cabinets, and this is something I've definitely lost a bit of sleep on because it's way harder than you can ever imagine. Because if you look down the van, this line here is level to the floor of the van, but if you look, the height of the ceiling changes drastically. It goes up and then it slopes down, and then not only that, the wall bends out to the left and then the ceiling scoops down. So it's going to be a bit of a disaster, but I think the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to scribe partitions. You basically start off with a bit of square cardboard, make sure it's 90 degrees to the floor and the ceiling, because you can't really do 90 degrees via a level because nothing in a van is level. And then you keep scribing using your wooden wheel and tracing it round the side of the van, whoops, and down until you get an exact scribe. It takes a little while. So then there, I've got something which fits perfectly to here and then to the roof here. And then what I'll do is I'll make scribes all the way along, so these will increase in size and then decrease in size. And then as long as I bolt them all together, keeping this 90-degree angle true to this wall, they should follow the contour of the van exactly. And then when it comes to putting a front on the cupboards to make it look neat, we'll just scribe that top line to the shape of the van, and then the bottom line should be easy. So I'm not sure if that makes sense at all, but I'll explain it as we go, and fingers crossed that works. Size of the cabinets, we're working around 12 by 12, but it's worked out at probably a back height of 12.5, and then it comes out around 12 inches, and then rises to about 14 inches, and that should be enough to fit a box of cereal in. Because Tam loves cereal. You're laughing at my outfit, aren't you?
I'm enjoying the new positivity you found today. You were a bit defeated at the end of yesterday.
I was. It's because my solar panels weren't working. But now they are. Because of these flipping dodgy fuses.
I didn't realise you'd gone cheap, Christopher.
Hey peeps, so day 2 of trying to build the upper cabinets. Massive headache. We've scribed a cross section of the van which matches the bent wall and the bent roof, and then what we're doing is making an endoskeleton, so making a skeleton out of these bits of wood and bits of 2x1, and then we'll wrap the whole thing in 6mm ply, and then we've got an extra gouge out the back to hide the wiring loom which hangs underneath, the factory wiring loom which hangs underneath. And then it's just hoping that these all sit flush and it all fits properly, and then this beam here bolts into existing cross nuts in the van.
Now, some of you may think you've seen this guy before, and you would, from well-known TV adverts such as Green Giant.
Look, you would have told me off if I got my good shorts dirty. Well, would you look at that? Oh shit.
Just walk Gwen while you're on it.
Dandelion.
She has a name, you know.
You give me a hand, please.
Nope, I think I'd rather just stand here and watch.
One thing we could do is unwrap this. That might make it better. Use of some old bike tire to protect the wires. I've lost Tamsin to Liverpool as she goes to help in the hospitals there, so at lone van builder once again, but that's all good. I'm just finishing off the coating for the outside for this final little cabinet, and because of the curve of the roof this bends down a lot. Now if I push on it I can get a reasonable curve, but I can't get to that very last bit. I'm a bit worried about splitting the wood, so I'm going to try using a wallpaper steam stripper just to soften the wood and see if I can get that very last bit. and fingers crossed it works, because I have a limited amount of plywood. Let's give it a go. I have no idea if this is the right way or the smart way to do it, but it's the hard and try, mate. We'll do it. Alright, here's the setup. So steam going away, loads of straps to pull the wood in, a couple of screws as well, and a load of clamps. And hopefully this softens the wood and it will hold its shape. But time will tell, and who knows how long I'll keep the clamp for. Here's the mini cabinet with the big bend in the roof, and that's curved nicely, and then that's come down nicely as well, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now it's just figuring out how we map the bottom and then the back to this bit of wall. Better crack on. Okay, well that took a lot longer than expected, but I have scribed the cardboard cutout of the actual exact shape of the van, and then follows the contour of the back of the wall. So, if you get down, you'll see how obscure the shape of this van is. Have it, there's the profile of the side of the van. Oh, the straight line in sight. That's the funky looking template we made for the cupboard above the driver's seat. And now, I need to cut it out with a flipping jigsaw. Easy as. So here we're just working out how to line up the bolt holes of the frame to this, because when you put it up you obviously can't see them. So using the classic Play-Doh trick, where you just put a blob of Play-Doh on roughly in the area where you think the bolt hole's going to be, and then you offer it up and you get an exact imprint. Let's see how good my guesstimation is. Alright, well we got 4 out of 5, which isn't too bad. Obviously this fits nicely above the doorway. Pretty happy that this follows the contour on the inside. That was a bit of a faff to do, but pretty happy with that. And then we've got a nice open cubby hole. We'll put a door on that. Follows the roof reasonably well. All freehand by a jigsaw, yeah boy. And then this has been a massive pain. So we've got a piece of wood covering up the silver bubble roll, whatever you call it. And we've got a cupboard here. And then if you look, this is where the wiring loom is. Absolutely paid. Can't see it in the cupboard. Can't see it beneath the cupboard. So it's completely concealed, which I'm super happy with. So when I cut this, I made an opening for the wire loom here, and so it dropped out of the cupboard here, and I was like, well, what's the point in going into all that effort to hide the wiring loom? So I patched that up, I'll paint it so you'll not even know, and then it just pops out the end here into the little gap there, but that'll be covered when we screw it all in. So, big long cabinets up, and then the little one is as well. We've got our shelf here, which leads into our lovely open cubby hole, which is now all carpeted and looks pretty sweet. Happy with that. It's been difficult getting these to line up exactly, so I'm going to need to put a bolt through those to clamp them together, and then try and get the height off. It's just off by a tiny bit, but these little things, so I'm going to try and get that sorted. But I'm going to call it a night now. That took way longer than I thought it was going to. Sweet, they're all up, which is quality news. Base is in this, clamped down. No horrible wiring loom in sight, very happy about that. And, whoops, just stood on the drill set. And then this shelf's nice and solid, whole van shakes when you move it, so yeah, very happy. So now I've got the laborious job of going and sanding down all of the screw holes I filled and painting the flipping thing yet again. But we'll get there. Peace.